Okay guys, as you can see, everybody has asked how I did my stripes and stuff on the Jeep, and I tell everybody I just really do mine, and they ask a little bit about doing theirs, and I don't want to mess up anybody else's, but I'm going to show you how I do mine so maybe you guys can try it at home. Right now I think we spent about 60, 70 bucks on knifeless tape and material to do some stripes on the Jeep. I already have the orange stripes off and the red stripes. Took about a half a day to get all the glue off. I used acetone. There's a lot of other things you could use, but I needed to wax it, so I did that. Obviously do something you're comfortable with, because acetone, if you're not careful, you could damage some stuff. I took the flags off down on the sides. All the lettering that's on here comes off easy with a hairdryer and a scraper with a plastic razor blade. You can get plastic razor blades to go in scrapers, and they'll just peel right under it, and then you peel it off and then just come back and take the glue off. So right now what you can see, I measured and masked off some areas and went back and put knife tape on. And what this does is, once I get the vinyl spread out, I can pull the knife tape and it cuts it without having to put a knife on the paint. And if you look, you can see the beginning of the pattern that we're going to use. And I'll also show you guys a picture of what I'm trying to create versus just ordering it in a less color options and different, because we're kind of going for a theme of exactly how we want it. So we're going to get started, and then we'll come back and show you the next step. Ooh, that's wrong. 5 inches. Yes, we are wrong on this one. I'm going back, I glanced at it, looked like I was off a little bit on one of the measurements, so I'm going to go back and move one of them just a little bit so I know I've got it where I want it. I use a wax pencil so I can work with it and then just clean it off the paint when I'm done. Always measure 3 or 4 times, because it's much easier to put it on one time than to take it back off and have to recut it and waste the vinyl, because the vinyl is not super expensive if you do it yourself, but it's also not cheap. Another thing you have to do, and I saw this on a YouTube video of a guy doing it, if you're doing patterns, and you'll see the pattern that I'm going to do on this one as I get it laid down, especially if you're new, which I'm certainly new, you can take a piece of tape and mark what comes off first, which lines you pull first, because if you have a bunch of layers and you pull them in the wrong order, you're going to mess yourself up. One of the things that I'm going to do that makes it a little easier on me is I try to make little guides to where I can kind of know where I'm going with it without having to measure and everything. If I have it laid out where I can just cut along a straight edge, I can do it a lot better than if I didn't. Even though I can't see the tape through the vinyl, I have my start and stop point, so I know what I'm doing. One side of that line is straight, one angle, so I'm cutting it pretty close to the shape I want, because when I'm done, I want to lay it on and not waste any. And you can see I wasn't super crazy accurate about that because the knife tape's gonna cut it the way I want. All I'm trying to do is get it into small pieces that don't waste a bunch of vinyl. And then we'll see if we can do this and make it turn out spectacular. So I ordered Vivid vinyl. You can buy it in 1.5 feet wide by 5 feet long. That is one of the cheapest ways to buy it. And I think I can do most of what I want with one roll of white and one roll of red. The difference is I want a two-tone stripe without having to order something pre-printed, and I'm going to do some cutouts and stuff in it that are going to make it hopefully turn out and give it a little depth and look good. One of the other things that they talk about is you should have like static free gloves. Now I do not, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't, because I may regret not having them once we get started. We'll see. And like I said, that was more to help me not waste a whole bunch of it. So I am not as concerned about how straight it cut. I'm gonna lay that up there and make sure it looks, it's gonna be, the tape's gonna cut the design I like. You do need like these type of squeegees or smoothers. They've got a little felt on them. They will protect it while you are putting it on. You can see we just laid it down. We didn't try to smooth it all out or anything right at first. Some of these will use heat. Some will use water. A lot of it is preference. I've not done this type vinyl so much before, so I don't know if it's just whatever I'm doing. And y'all see why I say that I want to do something for people, because who knows how this will turn out. Hopefully good, and hopefully you guys can look at it and decide if you want to do something yourself. You can kind of do it. The one thing everybody says is you have to get it really pressed over to the edge of the knife tape. So I am going kind of in outward directions to get the bubbles and stuff out. And that should be the way it needs to go. One thing I can tell you, it says do not do. You do not want to pull on a point So here's where it's kind of flat. I can pull that, or I can pull from the ends, but you don't want to start on a point like that because it's going to tend to tear. So I'm going to rub everything one more time with my fingers real good, and then we're going to see how the knife tape works. All right, this is like a little filament. And it's complicated, looks like, but we'll see. So you pull in the direction of where you want it cut, and you pull at about a 45-degree angle. If there's a curve, if you're using design line or fine line tape, it's thin, you can do curves. If you do that, pull around the curve. And we're going to come back down. We're going to try to, you know what, I'm going to pull this outside line first. You need to always leave a bunch on the end, about 6 or 8 inches. And I didn't up there, this line slid and we didn't. So I am going to start from the opposite end on that one. I'm assuming there's way different ways you can get this apart. I'm just going by mine. And what I've seen is they hold it. Gotta get it pulling through. There we go. You gotta be firm with it, and I'll have to look and make sure that doesn't leave anything I don't want at the other end. When you peel this off, you got a little bit of the knife tape left, and you pull it out from under it. These are the other pieces of your knife tape. And that left a little bit of a spot there, so I'll have to trim that a little bit with something, and I'll do that carefully here in a little bit. This one will do a little better, mostly because I've got more room on this end to work with. I'm not left-handed, so this will make it even harder. All right, pulled right through. Keep pulling. Then I'm gonna pull the knifeless tape out. And I'm gonna get what's under the edge out. All right. That's got the basic shape. This has a backing on it, a protective coating on this side. We're going to get that off of it, and then I'll do some final trimming and stuff. And that's to protect it, I guess, when you're putting it on. They also make this to just protect your paint. You can put these on to protect your paint. Now this is where you got to be more careful, I would think, because you don't want to damage the vinyl at this point. This end up here, we want it to tuck under the hood a little bit. I'm going to take a really sharp knife, and since I'm not positive how sharp that one is, I hadn't used that one. I'm going to go right here. I'm going to cut kind of in the middle and just pull straight through that seam. That should leave enough to fold over the edge of the hood. Just run your finger across it. If it's not sticking good, then you can apply a little bit of heat. I'll see how it does once I kind of get some pressure to it and stuff with this. if you look, I did something over here that's a little different. I had a lot here, but not as much here. I was coming in at an angle here where the protective layer is bubbling a little bit, so I didn't want it to wallow up because I'm right on the edge. Here, I had an extra amount. So on your sides, leave extra. So if you're coming across and it messes the edge up, before you get to the part you're keeping, it has a chance to clean itself up. I'm gonna come back and hit that one more time real good before I peel the protective layer off the top, which I'm gonna do up here and work my way down. I have to say this vinyl, this is vivid vinyl, and it is so far really easy to work with. It's pressure sensitive and heat sensitive, which means if you have trouble getting it to stick, you can put a little heat on it. Some people use a heat gun. I use a hairdryer a lot just because I don't think everything always needs that much heat. And then pressure sensitive means it doesn't necessarily stick solid until you put pressure on it, basically. It's kind of what it's telling you. So, and on this one, I'm going to go a little higher up. I might have cut that other side just a tad short to fold under the hood, so I went a little longer here to fold it under. I'll work the other side out either way, but that's just from one side to the next, something I did a little different that I think will help a little bit. And see, that's already it's gonna wanna stick a little better than the other side. So I'm gonna pause for a minute, guys. I'm gonna raise the hood. I'll get these corners or these back edges stuck down good, and then I'll come back and we'll lay out the pattern that's gonna be on the top for the red. All right, see how this one I left enough to fold under and have a nice edge? The other side I didn't, and it'll be I'll work it out. I may just have to be a little more careful with how it holds and pay attention to it for a little while. And here's something interesting. Had some warranty work done on the Jeep a couple weeks ago, and the guy working on it left well, it's a True Power extension. And I'll drop this back off because after all my years doing automotive, God knows I got plenty of extensions. So I'll take that back one day when I'm down there, because the guy that lost it may end up having to buy another one. I have 2 or 3 that length, and they might only have that one. So I'm gonna come back here and I'm gonna pull this under a little bit. And I think we'll be in good shape with it. Now I watch this edge as it's warm during the day and stuff, and I watch this short edge and see if it looks like it's going to want to stay down or come up. If it looks like it's going to come up, then we'll do something a little different. I can probably apply a little heat to it. You can also, you got to be careful, heat will stretch the vinyl. Alright guys, that folded under pretty decent. It'll probably stay like that. I can always come back and do a little something different if I have to. Looks like that helped it get a little stickier right there. So now we're gonna let the hood down and get ready. We'll line it off for the red. One of the things they make is called tri-line. They make it
and you can do different things with it, but one of the things you can do with it is it comes in 6mm and 9mm widths, and there's 3 strings in it to pull. Depending on the design, sometimes that is going to be helpful. For this, it would have actually been helpful so I could set the distance along this edge to a precise measurement, but that's going to be super close and I can live with that. If you noticed, I put second on that. You might not can read it. All these, they're going to pull second because I need the rig cut to shape, and then I'm going to, at that point, once it's cut to shape, I can then go back and cut the notches in it that I want. Remember what I said about corners and points. This line has to pull from up there because you'll tear up your vinyl down here. And the only other thing we're going to do is, because I want it red and I want a little white exposed around the edges, I'm going to put just about the same little edge on this side as I did that side. And normally you would probably do this in a garage, but I'm on the carport because we moved Dalton's car into the garage last weekend, and soon we'll have to be working on it. He'll be driving soon, and he's gonna want to be able to fix a car and drive it, so that's what we have been working on. One of the things that you got to be able to do is kind of eyeball distances and stuff. When I worked at the dealer, I used to pinstripe cars, and you kind of get used to looking at things down the long side of a car, and it will help you, or at least that's what you're trying to do. And usually you're going to be pretty close. All right, let's put our knifeless tape over here. And let's mark these. All right, so I know that all of these up here we're going to pull last. We're going to pull this one first, right here, that we just put on, because that's going to end my red length. Then we're going to come back and we're going to pull this one, and then we're going to pull this one, and that's going to leave a white line when we're all done. We'll pull this one last, and then we'll have red just down here. Once we have the red done, we'll come back and take out these little shark fin shapes. I'm sorry, sometimes I get to thinking and I'm looking at something and may want something a little bit different. Looking at that line, I'm decided that line did not, it was not leaving the white and red on the edge like I wanted. So I'm gonna relay this line down. This is one of the hardest parts. You gotta really be thinking about what you're doing, because I need one more line or one more piece of knife tape than what I had to get the effect I'm looking for. So we are going back and adding that. That's gonna leave red. If we put one more, we're gonna cut out a strip of white in the middle. So let's put one more strip of tape on it and put that one back on the end, and we'll cut the red and lay it up there. We'll mark our pulls so we know where to go. And then from that point, we'll see if this works out the way we think it will. Now, everybody didn't see, Melissa took a break for a minute, you guys didn't see all that I measured out. They have a 1-inch angle on them. They start at 8 inches down from the back of the hood. The cutouts are going to be 1 inch wide. It's got 4 of them, and they are 1 inch angle. We'll have a red line that runs down here, so we'll have a white edge here and a white edge here. And then we're going to pull out right in between these 2 lines right here, and we'll have a white stripe in between the red with your hash marks. So it should come out pretty cool. With all that being said, these cross hatches pull last. Any of these can pull in different order, but the first one's got to pull me down here. These I will probably pull the outside and work my way in so that everything is together as I'm pulling it. I think it'll come apart easier that way and less stress on the shape.
Did it cut easier upside down?
I don't know that it made much difference. The plainer color on the back is easier for me to see how to cut with, so that I don't end up. The one thing goes, if I cut it this way, it's going to be the angle's going to be going backwards unless I move it over to this side.
That's a good lesson.
So just to make it easier, I'll cut it the same way I did the other one first, and then I'll do that different. And this is a candy color. I thought it was really pretty. So hopefully it turns out as nice as what I think it will once it's all on the vehicle. Some of you guys may be good enough to cut this stuff in freehand. I am not. I use a guide on everything because I can't cut straight for nothing. So that's why I'm using that, and that's just an old piece of scrap I got laying around because I keep everything. This one I'm gonna actually, it may not make a lot of sense, but I'm gonna actually cut it wider than the white, even though it's gonna be in the center of the white, because I really want to make sure I've got the white covered good, because I'll cut out what I want left. So we're going to completely cover the white. And then when we peel everything off and away, we'll be left with a nice coverage on the middle. Let's carry this over and look. Now on the other side, I will flip it upside down and cut it, because it actually reverses the angle and lets me get a little more out of it. Alright, so there we are. Got plenty to cover that. So what I can do is just stick the whole thing down. Once I have it down pretty good around the mains, I can start pulling some of these out and see. We'll have to work with it a little bit in this case. There's going to be a lot of little ripples in it from the knife tape. So it's going to be important to kind of really try to get a lot of the air bubbles out as we go. This is also where a heat gun will come in handy as we finish. I will also tell you, according to several things I've seen, the different films are different. The different color. Like some of your guys doing wraps say that chrome is a terrible hard film to do. Now, one of the things we can do too is we can heat this a little bit if we have to and shrink it back. Most everybody that does this says that if you get something that's a little bit wonky and it has stretched, that you can heat it, and I'm sure it's like everything else. It has to be within reason, I'm sure, but you can heat it and it will draw back into shape. So I have no clue, because now I watched everybody do some of this, and I saw them take and put a red stripe on and then just come down across it with carbon fiber. I've not seen anybody that did quite this much detail, so we'll see how this works. It may turn out fabulous and it may not. Alright, so this is the first one we got to pull. Okay, so there's going to be a white end. And that's the first one we had to pull. So, to keep everything stuck down, I'm going to pull this way in and leave the bulk of this stuck until I pull this one. So, that's our finished edge. So we're going to pull from this direction down. And you can see we're starting to get an outline. Let's get the rest of our knife tape out of there. I'm going to tell you, so far, if I was telling anybody about doing this, if you're using the knife tape, it definitely makes it not that difficult, I guess you could say. Seems to be doing pretty well. And of course, it's not going to be as perfect as if you ordered a printed sheet of something and put on, if you do that. But the other thing you can do is, the stripes I had on the first time were lower quality vinyl, and I mixed a little baby shampoo in with some water and squeegeed under it, and that seemed to help it go on a little bit. But this vinyl seems really easy to work with. Okay, now I'm not pulling anything up there because that piece that I just pulled is going to actually stay there. I'm going to pull the rest of that when I get this section out. We're going to pull this last one, and then I'll start picking the pieces out, and we should have our basic shape without the shark fins cut out, or whatever you want to call them. Alright, I'm going to start by removing. We're going to pull this outside off and get that tape out of there. So now we have the two pieces of the knife tape out. And you can still see where I goofed up a little bit there, but I kind of am okay with that. Again, another reason I don't want to do anybody else's, because I would hate to do that to somebody's car. It doesn't bother me, but I would freak out if I did it to your car. You know what? I don't like that. I want to leave this line solid, so what I'm going to do is, instead of pulling these all the way through, I'm going to pull them to the middle, and then I'll lift this line and put it back down. Because I want the one solid line. And we still have to take the protective coating off the red, which might have been easier before we cut it all into little pieces, or less time consuming, but we'll see. Now, unfortunately, since I kind of screwed that up, I gotta pull this line up. But, fortunately, I can do the top half, pull these off, I believe, and then do the bottom half. Alright, I'm gonna wipe this good. I'm gonna take my squeegee and maybe even heat it a little bit. I gotta make sure these edges are gonna stay down good. Then I'll trim the back and fold it under the back. But I'm gonna squeegee it good before I pull the protective coating off of it. Got a few air bubbles here and there. What I may do is, once I get the plastic backing off of them now, I may actually go in and heat it after I pull the backing off. I have decided that the easiest way to get this line out from under is just like I did on the other side. Get it down and then take it out from under the solid line a half at a time. It would be pretty complicated and hard to judge where to stop it at to pull it out in the middle. Then you have to worry about if you leave any of the knife tape green pieces back up under it. So And I put the knife tape just to the side of the blue tape so that the flexible edge of the knife tape lets the blue tape just slide up under it. And I use the blue tape because it's just about an inch wide, and it's a lot easier than having to try to measure and get a measurement exact like that. Another thing you can do is rub your fingers along the tape too. That was one of the things I saw that some of the people did. And you can see by starting out here and leaving an overlap, I had enough room for this little curve to come out and end up pretty straight across the bottom edge, is what we're shooting for there. All right. Even though I'd rather start at the top because it's a straight edge, I need to start down here. I didn't leave quite enough knife tape out up there. All right, guys. That's kind of the hood stripes. We'll work on the side tomorrow. Now, one of the things you see just laying it out like this stripe and this stripe, they're a tiny bit difference in size. I don't know that anybody other than me will ever notice that, but I'll probably end up changing it at some point because it'll bug me. But not now. We'll get it striped and finished and everything else and just see how we end up.